Guys, welcome back to another great episode of the Cold Hard Truth, episode 51. We missed you guys live on Monday, so we're bringing you a special Sunday episode during Sunday Night Football. We're going to get into a lot of big topics here. MLB playoffs coming to a close to get into the World Series. Christian McCaffrey got traded from the Panthers. We talked about the Matt Rule firing. Panthers are cleaning house. We're going to talk about that plus a bunch of other NFL topics, jump into a little bit of NBA as well as the season is finally kicked off. All that and more coming right now on the Cold Hard Truth.
Are you crazy?
God, that's insane. Buddy, what are you doing?
Boys, welcome to the Cold Hard Truth. Guys, how we feeling? I know Peyton cannot be with us today. Conor, Jacob, Sunday Night Football is going to be kicking off in a little bit. Yankees game is delayed. How we feeling tonight, boys?
Could be
on,
better.
guys?
Could be better. We have a lot, like you said, to talk about. I think that it's pretty cool that we now have all four sports going on right now. Are probably the one we care about the most at this time of year isn't going according to plan for any of us, but still a lot to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Conor, I'm going to go to you first. We talked about Matt Rule being fired on our last episode, our 50th episode. We're now on episode 51. The Panthers not only within that week fired Matt Rule, they also decided to trade away Robbie Anderson after he got into like a fight or a scuffle with his coach on the sideline, got ejected from the game against, I believe it was the Cardinals in that game. The Rams. Playing the Rams, gets ejected. The Panthers move him for a 6th and a 7th round pick in 2024 and 2025. Then McCaffrey gets moved to the 49ers for a 2023 second rounder, a 2023 third rounder, a 2023 fourth round pick, and a 2024 fifth round pick. That was a mouthful of all the things I just had to say of all the picks that were moved. Cleaning house now, McCaffrey and Robbie Anderson. Spring cleaning, fall cleaning, whatever you want to call it. What's going on with the Panthers? Were these moves smart moves? Who won the trades? Did they get enough back? Talk to me about these moves.
Well, I would definitely say that they were smart moves, just because the team was, 1-5 coming into this week. And, as soon as they make it happen, they pull off a unbelievable win today against the Bucs.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, but I mean, Matt Rule had to be fired. He wasn't getting anything out of that team. He honestly probably lost the locker room in training camp just based on the start that they've gotten off to. Robbie Anderson clearly, just like disengaged from the entire team. And, they honestly did right by McCaffrey, just giving him a chance to go to the playoffs now with a 49er team, which, is loaded now, Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, McCaffrey, and obviously Jimmy G now behind center. So it was obviously right moves for the Panthers to make, and it obviously paid off in week 1 with all those changes being made.
Yeah, definitely, Jacob. I'm of the mindset. I'm going to say this right now. Again, Super Bowl hot take. I posted it on my TikTok. I did a poll on my Instagram saying, will this 49ers team win the Super Bowl this year? I was the only one on my poll. Yes, I did answer my own poll. I know. I answered my own poll. I said yes. Not the rest of the 17 other votes I received. Every single one of them said no. I'll say it here right now, right here. The 49ers, I believe, will win the Super Bowl with this team. With McCaffrey, with Kittle, with Debo, with Ayuk, with Jimmy G. You got Nick Bosa and Fred Warner on the other side of the ball, along with good players in their secondary. They're getting healthy at the right time. This Niners team is going to win the Super Bowl. Jacob, you probably don't feel the same way. Tell me about these trades from the Panthers' perspective, and then tell me about the 49ers' chances of winning the Super Bowl with McCaffrey now on their lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it makes a big difference for them going forward and in the competitive games that they're going to have to play in the close ones. But I think that the way the 49ers work and the fact that they did play in a Super Bowl recently and multiple NFC championship games, I don't know if it makes the full pan out that different because they've done it with not great running backs before. And you could, of course, make the case that bringing in a guy like McCaffrey is just going to make them even better at what they're already good at. And that definitely makes sense. I see that. But at the same time, the game plan doesn't change. And that might be not the best thing when facing other really good teams because they're going to be a ground and pound team anyway. So if you can stack the box and match up with McCaffrey, even though they have those receivers, Garoppolo's not great. And I can't see a full-on run to the Super Bowl, but I do think they get to the NFC Championship, and from there, anything could happen. But of course, the NFC is weaker than ever, and that's probably the biggest play into it that you could possibly make. If they had been in the AFC, they would have had a lot more teams to deal with, but the NFC has just been horrid. I mean, it feels like it gets worse every week. Big NFC teams lose.
My question,
I want to play great today, man, against the Chiefs. Gave up a lot of points.
They did. No, they did. And I'll say this, they were in the game in the fourth quarter. It was just those few, they couldn't get a stop on that. They were up 28-23, the Chiefs. The Niners couldn't get a stop going off of that drive. And that's kind of what led to their downfall. I feel like the score doesn't fully indicate how close the game actually was. I think the game was closer than the score indicates. My thing with the 49ers is you look at it, they have Deebo Samuel still, who, again, this season has not been producing as much as he was last year. But if I'm a defensive coordinator, and Conor, tell me if you feel the same way here. If I'm a defensive coordinator, the night before, the morning of, leading up to the game, and during the game, I am pulling my hair out with anxiety, figuring out how to stop a dynamic duo on offense of a running back who can play wide out and a wide out who can play running back. And if I'm a DC looking at McCaffrey and Deebo lining up on opposite sides of Jimmy G in the backfield, I'm shitting myself. I don't know what to think. I don't know where the ball's going. And I know it was only their first game together. McCaffrey will get more used to this West Coast style offense, which I think he'll flourish in with a guy like Kyle Shanahan. This offense, I'm telling you, in a few weeks, when all the kinks get worked out, when everybody gets comfortable with each other, is going to be the most dangerous. I won't say most. That's a little bit of a stretch. One of the, if not a top 5 most dangerous offenses, most potent offenses in the NFL because of the dynamic ability of both McCaffrey and Deebo. But going to the Panthers side of things, Conor, do you feel the same way about that or no?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. McCaffrey got traded late Thursday night, so he was prepping for the Buccaneers, gets the call Thursday night. Wait, I got to change and now prep for the Kansas City Chiefs and learning a whole new playbook. They actually handed him the playbook on the plane going to San Francisco. And even for the Chiefs, their entire defensive side of the ball now has to prepare. Oh my God, we got to stop Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey now coming out of the backfield, which is just insane. And, just like you said, like once he gets like a full week of practice in with these guys and gets more comfortable, finds a place to live, gets to know the team a little bit better. Obviously this team is going to be really, really good. And just like Jacob said, I think they're going to make a real run in the postseason.
Most definitely. And Jacob, I'll go to you again for the Panthers side of things. Those moves they made, getting rid of Anderson, getting rid of McCaffrey, getting all that draft capital back. Right move by them. I mean, they fired the head coach. I felt like it was inevitable they were going to kind of clean house there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers just like it's one thing to be bad and know, it's probably not going to work out and you're rebuilding, but I think they probably thought they were going to be a lot better than they have been. And I think that's probably led to the blow up of sorts because it's almost like if the amount of money we're paying to roll out this coach and these players and it's not working, then you have to almost just jump the ship. And that's what they did. So I think it made a lot of sense from their perspective and they got a win today, which was surprising. But before we move on to our next topic, devastating news. It just never ends for us New York Jet fans. We finally get off to a good start. And Bryce Hall has injured his ACL. They are doing an MRI. They said it does not look good. As of about 5 minutes ago from Salah, really brutal. And we'll just hope that it's not torn and that it will be something that will be not long. But I mean,
at what point in the game?
Probably best rookie in the league this year offensively.
At what point in the game did this happen agaast the Broncos? I was watching.
Really late. It was in the third, but I mean, they
you gotta be kidding me, man.
So we'll see. It's not. They didn't say it's torn, but they said. The B reporter, Rich, said, bad news on Hull. Diagnosis not good per Salah. They suspect it's ACL. Brutal.
That's tough. That just sucks for the Jets again, especially with him. He was taking over that RB1 position. He reminded me a little bit of Le'Veon Bell, the way he played, his patience and his for a rookie especially, his IQ and his ability to run between the tackles and be patient and wait for those gaps and holes to open up in the offensive line. That is really what kind of stood out to me about him. Hopefully, we're praying again. If it is a torn ACL, knock on wood, cross our fingers. Hopefully, he can get back to being healthy next season because obviously he'll miss the rest of the year if it's torn ACL. We hope for a speedy recovery for Breece Hall. Guys, again, one of the best young players in the NFL this year. Hopefully he can come back and, again, remind us all how good he is at some point when he gets over this injury. I know, Jacob, you wanted to
have – they have Michael Carter now in the backfield, which is, another stud that they can put back there in the offense.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, to have him as a backup is good to have Breece, because Breece Hall, again, surging onto the scene like this, having Michael Carter now as that backup is still good for them overall. I don't think it's going to make or break them. Definitely going to hurt them offensively, but you still got Garrett Wilson. You still got Zach Wilson. You still have Elijah Moore, even though he's been in some, he demanded a trade, but we'll see what happens with that. They still have enough weapons, I think, to get it done and a good defense, so we'll see what happens with them. Jacob, I know you had some teams you wanted to run by us of. Are they contenders or pretenders? We're now 7 weeks into the season, about to be midway. There are a lot of teams that right now have really good records that we might look at and say, well, maybe they're not contenders. Some teams with lower records, maybe they're going to jump to be contenders. So throw out a few teams here for.
Yeah, I had 3 lined up, and I wanted to kind of do ones that were kind of like different levels of where where they are. So the first one I had to bring up was the Minnesota Vikings, who have probably been, aside from the New York teams, probably the biggest overachievers. Some would say they're leading the division by multiple games. And I think that what's really interesting about the Vikings is, similarly to the Jets and Giants, where you didn't expect they'd probably get out to a 5-1 start, or Jets 5-2 now. The difference with them seems to be that they actually do have a good amount of experience around their football team compared to the New York team. So it's real. I was having a lot of trouble. I honestly think, for me personally, I'll give you my take before I ask for yours, that I think with the weakness of the NFC, I think they have to be viewed as a contender. I don't think they normally would have been on most given years, and if teams like the Bucs and Packers specifically had played they expected, but they're not. So I think the Vikings have to be viewed as a contender to at least come out of the conference.
Side note, though, about the Packers and the Bucs, they're now both below 500 after today. They're 3-4, both of these teams. I can't remember the last time Rodgers and Brady at the same time simultaneously were both under 500. That's mind-boggling to me. And then the Giants and Jets both have 5+ wins. I don't know what kind of like semi-dimensional like opposite world we're living in, but this just doesn't make any sense to me. About the Vikings, though, I'm looking at their schedule right here. They beat down on the Packers week 1, got clamped down by the Eagles in week 2. Darius Slay shut down Justin Jefferson. And since then, they've won, I believe, 4 in a row. They had a bye week this week, once against the Lions in week 3. They beat the Saints off the Saints having that double doinker kick in London, missing that. They beat the Bears at home, and they beat the Dolphins with their third-string quarterback, no Tua, no Teddy. So, yes, are they contenders? I'll say that right now at this point in the season. They do need to show me, like when they have to go up against guys like teams like the Bills, the Vikings, even the Jets. I can't even believe I'm saying this. The Jets and the Giants down the line. We'll see if they can beat them as well. But overall, I call them contenders, but like a loose contender, because the teams they've beaten up on right now, really, if we look at the culmination of their records, they're not all that great, if we're being honest. But Conor, would you consider them contenders or no?
I would consider them contenders, but again, loosely, and because, they are still in the same division as Aaron Rodgers. And I know that the Packers are not playing that well right now, but they can't just, look at the division, say that it's weak for, the first time in a long time, and just think that they're going to roll to a division title. You still got Aaron Rodgers in there. Lot of football to go. We're only in week 7, but as of right now, the Minnesota Vikings contenders for sure.
All right, that's the first one. Jacob, who's your next team for us?
Yeah, I got another one kind of middle of the pack that, jumped out to a start, middle of the pack record-wise, jumped out to an interesting start. I had them as a division winner. I'd say this division is probably overall kind of weirdly underperformed a little bit. What do you think about the Baltimore Ravens? Interesting because the AFC is really, they've had a couple surprising teams both ways. You have positive surprises like the Jets, and you've had negative ones like about everybody in the AFC West except the Chiefs. But with those 3 teams struggling, meaning the Broncos mightily, the Raiders mightily, and the Chargers mightily, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they lost to the Seahawks today.
That's at home too.
Yeah. More and more teams that keep kind of being So, I mean, where do you mark the Ravens right now?
Conor, you can go first.
Ooh, well, I would say
Conor and I didn't know who these teams were coming in, so we're trying to make the decision on the fly right now.
That is hard. I think that the Ravens are really good. They're just really inconsistent. They have a really young defense. Lamar has evolve more as a passer, which is good for that offense, but they don't really have that many threats, I would say, outside of Mark Andrews. I mean, Duvernay's had a nice season. Bateman's playing pretty well. I mean, Dobbins is always hurt. He's never on the field. So they have to rely on Gus Edwards and Kenyon Drake to be in the backfield. Yeah. But right now, yes, I would say the Ravens are contenders. But again, like the Vikings, very loosely. Their division is not that great as well. And but I obviously expect them to make the postseason just because of who's behind center for them and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I'm going. So, all right. So you call them contenders or pretenders? What are you saying here?
Contenders. Yeah, they are.
Okay. I'll say pretenders right now. My only thing with them is, again, in the first 3 weeks of the season, Lamar Jackson was an MVP candidate. He was playing out of his mind against the Jets, Dolphins, and the Patriots. And then in his last 4 games, we'll go through it. They lose to the Bills 23-20 in Baltimore. They were up in that game. Was it 20-3? And they end up, or it was 17-3, something like that. They end up blowing that game, losing 23-20. Ravens and Bengals, Sunday Night Football, they were home against Cincinnati. They were kind of flip-flopping back and forth between the game. Lamar ended up driving them down the field. Game-winning kick by Tucker. Against the Giants in New York, up 20-10. They get outscored 14-0 in the final minutes, or not final minutes, about final quarter of the game. Giants pull that one out. They blow another late lead. And then this week, they barely squeak by the 2-5 Browns with Jacoby Brissett. Lamar Jackson in his last 4 games, I'll keep in mind with you as well, has thrown for no more than the most passing yards he's had in his last 4 games, 210. All 3 other games, less than 200 passing yards. He has severely fallen off in terms of how he was playing in the first 3 games. He's been significantly worse in his last 4. As of right now, because of how inconsistent they are, I would call them pretenders. I need to see them string together a few wins against, maybe if they're not like super God squad teams, I need to see them put together a 3-4 game win streak before I can call this team contenders in what's been still a tough but underwhelming AFC North. What do you think, Jacob? What do you think? I mean,
I think it's tough because I think, like I said, I think that they probably would think that they could be playing a little bit better than they have, and I think that they're benefiting from the fact that they are getting. Especially within the division, you probably thought the Bengals would have challenged them a little more. They've looked very The other 2 teams just really don't have much identity and are a lot of trouble with the quarterback position. So I see them winning that division as I predicted before the year. And I think contending because I think that the thing about them in a playoff game is, it was always stack the box and you'll beat the Ravens. And it worked how many years in a row, starting with the Titans game, and then the next year. And over again. But with Lamar's development as a passer, you probably can't do that anymore. So, yeah, you'd like to see a bit more you'd like to see a bit more production from the wide receiver role and not just Andrews. That's definitely the biggest area that halts their team. But I would still mark them as a contender, I think.
I need to see more production from Lamar Jackson in the pass game over the last 4 games. They're 2-2, and his passing game has been basically not non-existent, but I have him on fantasy. Trust me, I know. The pass game in the first 3 weeks was booming, like AB used to say, business is booming. Now we're in these 4 games, and Lamar Jackson can't throw the football anymore. He's turning the ball over way more at a higher clip than he was in the first 3. I don't know. I'm not saying they can't be, but as of this moment, right at this moment in time, right now, I have to see Lamar Jackson get back to the level of play he was showing us in the first 3 weeks. But I digress. Final team you have for us. Who do you got?
Yeah, the last team I had, I figure that we might as well talk about these 2 New York teams. I mean, would you consider either? Giants 6-1 now, Jets 5-2. Maybe who would you mark to be closer to being one if you think that neither of them are? And I'll go first.
Yeah, I would say you go first. Go with your Jets.
Yeah, I would say the Jets are creeping towards it, but still aren't there yet. I think that the only reason that despite being 5-2 and that probably being that'll be good for second in the conference. I think the Chiefs are probably the only 1-loss team. If I'm not, the Bills too. But
no, Chiefs have 2 losses.
Chiefs lost twice, so the Bills, right? Yeah. I think that they probably would still have to be marked under. Just because despite their 5-2, you feel like if they played a Bills or a Chiefs, they'd get smoked still. Yeah. And the injury to Brees just does the opposite of. I mean, it just works incredibly inversely in their favor because he was probably the biggest bright spot on that team. Giants, I think, are a little closer And I really lean towards yes, because that conference is so unbelievably underwhelming. I mean, we're talking about if we're talking about a team like the Vikings as a contender, it's hard not to talk about the Giants in the same light. I'll still say no, but I think they're like this close. I think they're a win or two away.
I'll let Conor close it out after I go. I'm the Jets for me. They're not yet. They're playing well, but they're in too tough of a. It's just a simple matter of being in too tough of a conference.
And they haven't had good enough passing offense either.
Exactly.
Right.
They beat the Packers, and Zach Wilson threw for 99 passing yards. He didn't even throw for 100. It's not. I don't see them as being a contender. They're good, not a contender. Because again, even though they have better records than teams like the Bengals and the Chargers, if I were to take those teams healthy and put them up against the Jets, I would take the Bengals and the Chargers in a playoff game right now. I would. But the Jets, I'm not saying they're not a good team. They're a very good team. The Giants.
I think they could upset somebody though in the first
Well,
round.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, we look at it as contender. I'm talking about like contender, like AFC championship game and higher. Yeah. Giants. It's like, I don't want to say they're not even that I don't want to. I don't feel like it's right for me to say.
You want to say it.
No, it's that almost like it doesn't feel normal to say, oh yeah, this team can make the NFC championship game. But it's like, how could you not say it's a possibility right now? Because you look at it, they're the only other team besides, bye weeks included and everything. They're the only other team besides Philly to have 6 wins. The 2 6-win teams in the NFL come from the NFC least. The Giants and the Eagles. And
Can't
also,
call it that anymore.
The Giants had beat the Ravens last week down 10. Like the 2 hardest games in their schedule, probably the Packers and the Ravens outside of the Eagles that they have to play again. They beat both of them. And they were down by 10 in each contest. The Giants, I have to say, are contenders. And it's partly for 2 reasons. One, because I picked Nick Sirianni to win Coach of the Year. If the Giants win like 12 or 13 games, I think Dable has to be Coach of the Year.
Easily.
I don't think it's a goddamn question. Because the Giants are significantly less talented than the Eagles are, and roster-wise, and they're basically the same record. So Giants are contenders. The coaching staff is probably the biggest reason why, along with being in a very weak NFC. That's part of why I'll say it too. Giants, listen, you weaseled it out of me. You're contenders. Will you stay that way? I don't know. But right at this moment, I can't believe I'm saying it. But for the first time since like 2012, the Giants are contenders.
That's
Conor,
right.
I'm assuming you agree with me.
Yes, I'm actually going to say that both of them are, because
Wow.
This is the part that takes me over the edge with both. They're both learning how to win, but they're both learning how to win on the road. They're both undefeated on the road so far this year, which is
That's true. Good point.
Which is a really, really good starting point for 2 franchises that have been so bad for so long and finally rebuilding. Yeah. I mean, the Jets' passing offense needs to be better. I think we all can, think that. The Giants, really young defense, need to, learn to stop the run better. But, them learning how to win on the road with such young teams and a coaching staff in year 1 and a coaching staff in year 2 is a reason why I have them both as contenders this year in 2022.
Listen, I'm not going to fight you on it again. I think it's just the AFC is too tough to call the Jets contenders. But Giants, like I'm with you all the way. Again, I said it first. I think they have to be considered contenders at this moment in time. But we'll move on from the NFL, going over to baseball. Now, we were going to talk about the MLB playoffs and reactions to stuff. The first thing we have to say, I think playoff Bryce Harper's got to be a thing, right? I mean, the man in the playoffs so far, 43 at-bats. He's batting .419, a 400 batting average in the playoffs, 5 home runs, 11 RBIs. His OPS is 1.35. The guy's hitting the lights out of the ball. He's playing phenomenally. And not to mention, today in Game 5 of the NLCS against the Padres, in the bottom of the 8th, Bryce Harper hits a go-ahead 2-run home run to send the Phillies back to the World Series for the first time since what, like 2009?
2009 against the Yankees.
Yeah, it was against the Yankees in 2009. We wish we could have that matchup again this year. It's not going to look like it, though. But, the game tonight was postponed, just in case you guys didn't know. Game 4 postponed.
Right?
No, they postponed it. It's
I thought it was delayed.
No, they announced it postponed.
They're going to play at 9, I think.
Oh, wait. It's been postponed till 8:30. I didn't see that part. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So they'll be playing in like half an hour, tipping off Game 4. Yeah. The Yankees are down 3-0 in this series. The Astros have owned them the entire time. But Conor, first, reactions to a guy in Bryce Harper who won the NL MVP last year. If it wasn't for a thumb injury this year, he might have gotten it over. But he might have gotten it over Paul Goldschmidt, if we're being honest. What are your reactions to a guy who, in my opinion, has kind of been like almost not forgotten about, but he's just not talked about in the same way he was when he was at Washington?
Definitely not forgotten by me. He's been in the same division as my team his whole career,
Yeah.
so I've seen what he's been able to do. But I'm actually kind of surprised because it was the opposite in Washington, where they would get to the playoffs and then just not be able to, go far. They would lose after one round pretty much every year, and then the year he goes to the Phillies, the Nats end up winning the World Series.
That
So
was crazy. Yeah.
this is obviously a really good time for Bryce Harper to, go to his first World Series with the team that he's signed for, to go into a team within the team that drafted him, their same division. So he's still playing against them. But, for him to be able to lead this Philly offense, this team won 87 games this year, while the Mets and Braves,
They were the 6th seed.
87 games.
They were the lowest seed
Yeah.
in the National League.
Yeah, they were
That's
the
crazy
6th seed. I mean, the freaking Mets and Braves were killing each other for the division all year, and it just doesn't matter. All you have to do in the postseason is get in, and that's what the Phillies have
And then
proven to people.
You know what else you got to do? Hit the damn baseball. And what have the Phillies done? Their bats have heated the hell up, and they've hit the damn baseball. But Jacob, Yankees, they're down 3-0. I mean, what is to be said about? Yeah.
First, I was going to say it's unbelievable with the Phillies because for the other 120 years of baseball, they wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
For original formatting until 1995, not even close. And from 1995 to last year with the wild card game, they wouldn't have made it either. They would have missed by a couple games. And now they're here playing in a World Series. And I think that it shows that whether you like the Phillies or not, the baseball is, and I think that the reason they added that extra team and made the playoffs with the best of threes is because they want to play to that Cinderella story, because it's more than possible in baseball. The Nationals did it. They were a wild card team. The San Francisco Giants did it as a wild card team. And now the Phillies are doing it as a wild card team. So it's like it adds to the you don't know who's ever going to win factor that baseball, I think, has more than any other sport, which is a very special thing. Talk about the Yankees. I mean, there's just not much to be said that I think people don't already know from simply watching. The number one reason that they're in this spot is because of the lack of hitting, how cold their bats have gone. And the second reason, and pretty close behind, is I mean, Aaron Boone has managed terribly. And I was telling Tino earlier, and I think everyone will notice that I've been critiquing him way less because I thought he was very good this year. I thought he made decisions most of the time. I thought that he put them in the right chances to win. But in the playoffs, even in the Cleveland series, just questionable decision after questionable decision over and over again. And it is hard to make those decisions. It's not easy, but there are guys who can. And there are reasons that there are teams that are less talented than the Yankees, that are not performing as well as the Yankees throughout a year, that make longer playoff runs. And a lot of that will be based on how teams manage their bullpens and how teams string together rallies and get on base and how teams have the right energy.
It's not even just bullpens, dude. It's the fact that, once again, can Aaron Boone pick a spot for Harrison Bader to bat and just like keep him there? Because in the last 3 games, in game 2, he was batting leadoff. In game 3, he was batting 6. And now today in game 4, he's batting leadoff again. Let's make your mind up and pick a spot for them to bat, because he put Rizzo at leadoff last night. I don't know why in the hell he did that, because Rizzo is not a leadoff guy. He is a cleanup hitter at number 3. He's been that pretty much throughout his career, I feel like, even when he was with Chicago. Like, Rizzo is not a leadoff hitter. And I understand. Also, one more thing. Please tell me, why is Josh Donaldson still in the lineup? The guy does not hit the damn baseball, especially in the postseason.
Who do they have to replace him with?
Okay, listen, that's a good point. There's not many other guys to replace him with, because I know Benintendi and LeMahieu are hurt. Because if they were in, he would not be batting right now. But Donaldson, because that's something else you got to mention too. LeMahieu and Benintendi not being in the playoffs at all vastly hurt us. Vastly. That hurts.
But even worse than both of them is probably Michael King, even though it was months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been lucky to. I mean, I don't want to say they're lucky to be where they are, but they were dealt
They are.
They were dealt really bad cards. I mean, they the injury plague and it's ugly. I just hope they win tonight because you don't want that great season to be capped off by a sweep. So that's
honestly,
all you can hope for right now. One game.
To think of where this team was at the All-Star break, what was it, like? It was 65 wins, or like it was something crazy like that. They were the best team in baseball by far. And to see where they've fallen to now in the second half of the year, Stanton goes down, LeMahieu goes down, Benintendi goes down, Matt Carpenter, like everybody gets injured, everybody on this roster. And Boone again, and I can vouch for Jacob and Conor. You live with the kid. I'm sure you can vouch with him too, or vouch for him. That in previous years, oh my God, the way Jacob would rip into him. And I'm not saying Boone didn't deserve it, but Jacob would tear into this guy like it was, like he killed someone in his family. It was like, oh my God, like I couldn't stand him. And this year he was. Listen, Boone kind of got that monkey, that proverbial monkey. Jacob Jarrett was the monkey on his back, and Boone kind of knocked him off. And now he's back in the playoffs, and Jacob hops right back on because he's asking for it, because he can't manage a lineup. So it's a combination of Boone being unable to manage a bullpen and a lineup properly. It's a combination of injuries. What were you going to say, Conor?
I just have two questions for you guys. You can finish your point, and then I'll ask out.
Yeah. No, it was, it's been those two things again: mismanaged bullpen, mismanaged lineups, injury bug once again, which the Yankees can almost never escape, it seems like. And I would say probably the third thing, and I'm not blaming Aaron Judge. There's no blaming here. He was phenomenal in the regular season, one of the best seasons by a player ever in MLB history. He's batted like under a .15 batting average in the playoffs. He really he's had 2 or 3 home runs, I think, in the postseason. Outside of that, he's been virtually non-existent and a non-factor in these series. I know, again, against the Guardians, he had that home run in the closeout game with Giancarlo Stanton. He had a home run on the road against Cleveland in that series. But in the Astros series, he's done nothing. He really he's outside of a few that one good defensive play, that crazy catch in the outfield, at the plate offensively, he's done nothing in this Astros series. So some of the blame has to be put on him, but the majority is Boone, a very, very bad bullpen, and injuries. But Conor, what were you going to ask us?
I have 3 questions. One involves Matt Carpenter. Yeah, he's out for 2 months, and Aaron Boone throws him into the fire in Game 1 against the Astros, going to face Justin Verlander. Right move or wrong move, in your guys' opinion?
I think it's the right move, in my opinion. I think you have to put him in there to give some kind of spark, because they weren't hitting the ball that well to begin with.
Yep.
I don't know what you think, Jacob, but you got to get some kind of spark in there. I feel like.
I don't think so. I don't see how you could expect a guy to adjust that way. I don't see how you could adjust a guy that's in the latter half of his career and got hot for a few weeks. As fun as that time was, in late June or whatever it was, with Carpenter coming out smacking all these home runs to right field at Yankee Stadium. I mean, there's just no way to logically relate a June 18th home game against the Chicago Cubs on a Saturday afternoon at Yankee Stadium to a Tuesday night game at Minute Maid Park versus Justin Verlander in the American League Championship Series. Yeah. And expect a guy that hasn't played in that long to step in and act like he was. It's just not how baseball works. In other sports, you could kind of, if you get guys on the right mental pace, you get, some practice in, but there's nothing that can mentally prepare you for that unless you've been playing for the previous weeks, as many other players have. It made no sense to take Cabrera out of the lineup there because despite Cabrera's struggles in the ALDS, he's played the last 2 months of the season. So I
see where you're coming from. My only point of understanding where Boone was coming from on that decision was that he wanted to try to get some kind of spark in the lineup. And last time Carpenter came in, he gave that spark. And again, I know he missed 2 months, but maybe he was just kind of thinking, you know what? We didn't hit the ball that great against the Guardians. We could try to get something going. Listen, would playing him or not playing him have changed the outcome of that game? No.
And then he played him again, though.
I know, but listen. Playing Carpenter or not playing Carpenter, at the end of the day, the Yankees weren't going to win those games regardless if Carpenter didn't play. I wouldn't make that the end-all, be-all of why they lost those games. But anyway, we'll see what happens in tonight's game. They're going to tee off at about 8:30. Hopefully they can fight a little bit, get one at Yankee Stadium, push the series. Listen, the Sox have done it against the Yankees before, down 3-0. It's possible. It's happened. So listen, cross our fingers, hope to die. I'm knocking on all the wood in this room. Yankees, please pull something out. Bronx Bombers, come on. We're rooting for you. Moving on to the NBA, basketball is back. I was super excited when opening night head off, and then my excitement went down the drain when the Lakers start out. They're now 0-3, losing their first 3 games for the Trailblazers, Clippers. So, boo-hoo, get out of here with your Knicks. I don't want to hear it. So yeah, Lakers haven't performed great, but I want to move away from them for a second. We'll start out, Conor. We'll go around the horn real quick. Biggest threat to the Warriors, either in the East or the West. One team that is the biggest threat to the Warriors this year.
I think you kind of have to say the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, they are pretty dysfunctional at times. We've seen that the past couple of years, and that's what's held it back from winning a championship, in my opinion. But if you get KD, Ben Simmons, and Kyrie in the right mindset, dude, they are unbelievable to watch and clearly the biggest threat to the Golden State Warriors.
All right, we'll see about that. Jacob, what do you have? Biggest threat?
I don't mind that point at all. I think I'll give you one from each conference. I think that they may have their their emotional issues to still be figured out a bit early on in the season, which I think they will do, because the combined effort, to the fact that they need a championship. I think in the West it's still the Phoenix Suns, because I think that despite the really disappointing loss they had last year, the Ayton business and whatnot, 2 years removed, they were in an NBA Finals, and on paper, I still think they might be the best team in the conference, aside from the Warriors. And you're giving me crazy eyes, Tino, which I'm not sure why, because they have 3 all-star caliber players on their team, a good bench, and a great coach. So I don't know. They won 62 games last year. I don't know. Just
I'll tell you what the crazy eyes are for. Hold on. I'll tell you what the crazy eyes are for. The crazy eyes.
Because they're 0-3, that doesn't mean a thing. I don't even know if they're 0-3. I'm just saying.
Give me your Eastern Conference. Move on. Eastern Conference. Who do you have for that?
I would probably say the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Honestly, Philly's going to be good this year.
Philly's good too.
Philly's got a hell of a team.
Philly in a second, because they've
I can't believe they got Montrezl Harrell. I had no idea they even did that.
Yeah, that was a big move for them. No, okay. The reason I'm giving you crazy eyes for the Phoenix Suns is because, first off, you're overlooking 2 teams that I would say when they're healthy, they're better. The Denver Nuggets adding Jamal Murray back to the lineup. I would take Denver over Phoenix. I would take the Clippers over Phoenix with Kawhi healthy, PG healthy, John Wall coming off the bench, Reggie Jackson. I would take both of those teams over the Phoenix Suns. I would take, if I'm being honest with you, I would take my Minnesota Timberwolves over the Phoenix Suns. I think you're out of your mind.
Come on.
Yes. I'm taking the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm taking them over the Phoenix Suns, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you one thing right here. Chris Paul in that Dallas Mavericks series, when they got knocked out, it was 7 games, I believe. Yeah, they got knocked out in Game 7 at home by like 50 against the Mavericks. Chris Paul looked old and sluggish at the end of last season, closing out the year. Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, there was no chemistry. Monty Williams was not even playing DeAndre Ayton last year in the postseason for whatever damn reason. I couldn't tell you. They almost lost him last year. The chemistry is dysfunctional in that organization. The Phoenix Suns are not challenging the Warriors. Maybe they'll get to the semifinals again. There's no chance in hell are they competing with the Warriors. It is going to be the Nuggets or the Clippers.
But why are they worse? I mean, they're not worse.
We were asking this question last year. They weren't worse last year. How they performed worse.
But last year, they could have. I mean, they lost in Game 7. They were a game away from squaring off against the Warriors. And
I think you're forgetting how bad they were closing out the season. Conor, do you remember how many questions there were around this team coming into the postseason last year? I feel like Jacob's just forgetting that there were so many question marks on this team at the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't.
Look at him; he doesn't know what to say. He's speechless. The Phoenix Suns.
No, I can't believe what you. I can't believe what you're saying, because you're going to be wrong. I mean,
listen, I don't think so at all. I would take, if I pick between one of the two, I think the Clippers are the biggest threat to the Warriors in the Western Conference.
Clippers are never healthy.
They are healthy. They are healthy right now. Everyone's healthy.
No, but they never are, though. You
all right, so listen,
guarantee that Paul George and Kawhi are playing a full season?
Hey, I'm banking on them staying healthy. We're basing this
whole
question
year.
off. Yes, fully healthy the whole year. I'll take Clippers. Yes,
both of them.
Clippers. Okay. Clippers are the biggest threat, and in the Eastern Conference, I agree. It's the Milwaukee Bucks, because if Middleton was healthy last year, Boston would have never been in the NBA Finals. It would have been Miami or Milwaukee, probably Milwaukee again. So I'll take the Bucks to be the biggest threat in the East. I want to bring up the Sixers though before we go. So our last topic, Jacob, you brought up the Sixers being a good team this year. I know we're only 3 games in. is it an overreaction to say the Philadelphia 76ers will once again be a disappointment and get knocked out early in the playoffs? They've started out 0-3 so far. They're coming off a loss to the Spurs at home, who are in a rebuild mode. Joel Embiid dropped 40. In that game, Harden was I think it was 4 of 16 and 1 of 5 from 3, had 12 points, did not shoot the ball well. The other 2 losses came against the Celtics and the Bucks, so you can't really blame them for those because Boston and Milwaukee are better teams. But starting out 0-3, do you look at this team and believe they are true contenders, or are they going to go knocked out early in the playoffs this year?
Well, it's unbelievable, really, with Philly because they had the whole trust the process, those 4 or 5 years, I guess, in a row of being a tank team. And, you would have been just excited if they strung together a couple wins. You would have been almost surprised. Now, it feels like they have more pressure and spotlight on them than anyone because of their roster and the addition of James Harden last year. And I think that really plays negatively for them because I think they have guys on their roster that really need to have their heads on straight. They were able to clear Ben Simmons, who was the biggest person in terms of what I just said, in the last few years and just being a mess emotionally. But I think there's a bit too much pressure on this Philly team. And the fact that the Eagles and the Flyers and
I was literally just going to say
are all playing so good only
Yep.
adds pressure to them. I think they're good enough to contend in the Eastern Conference on paper. But I think that it'll be hard for them when they get into that Bucks type series, Celtics or Nets or Heat. You just feel like something's going to go wrong eventually. It's just something rubs you the wrong way about them.
Mhm.
That's my feeling too. And the thing is, James Harden has a history of maybe coming up short in playoff games here and there and not showing up when it matters the most. And I would take Milwaukee and Boston 110%, 10 times out of 10 against Philly in a 7-game series. So I don't see them making the finals. Maybe they could squeak out an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, depending on how the bracket shakes out. But I wouldn't see them going farther than the conference finals. Maybe not even getting there to that point. So I think it's an overreaction to say based on this 0-3 start, they're just not going to do anything because it's 3 games. It's an 82-game season. They'll figure it out. I would like to think because Harden will get. I just think they're going to get comfortable. I'd like to think on paper they should figure it out. Will they's a different story. Last thing, LA Lakers. I just want to say a few things about him. Russell Westbrook, go the hell home. You were 0 for 11 against the Clippers, 0 for 6 from 3. Over half of his shots were from 3. Why he was doing that, I don't really know. Because
He said he played well too.
What?
He said that he said that he played well in that game.
Connor, I'm going to get into it in a second because this is what's worse than actually playing bad. And he was saying, they were leaving me open on the 3-point line. There's a reason, buddy, because you can't shoot. There's a reason they were leaving you open because you can't shoot. So why stop shooting them? So that was one thing. Now, number 2, not only do you go out there, the Lakers lost by 6, keep in mind. You go 0 for 11, and then you have the audacity to sit in that post-game interview. The reporter asks, I'll go word for word, what would you attribute the loss to today? I'm paraphrasing. Westbrook goes, nothing in particular. We fought, competed. Okay, so I guess you're not going to point to the fact that you were 0 for 11, and if you would have just hit 3 shots, you guys would have won the game. All right, that's fine. Then they ask you directly, Westbrook, how do you think you played? I think I played solid. Solid. Solid? What are you talking about? You were like gas on the basketball court. You want to talk about like solid liquid gas. You were anything but solid on the basketball court. You were 0 for 11. What are you talking about? Oh, I played solid. Give me a break. It's more embarrassing for somebody who plays in the purple and gold, that historic franchise. It is more embarrassing to go into that post-game press conference in your locker room and say those words than actually go on the court and stink it up. That's even worse. So I don't know what to do about this guy anymore. I mean, the Lakers lost today on a go-ahead 3 bucket with 3 seconds left. Portland beat them. With Jeremy Grant made a layup over LeBron and Davis. They're 0-3. As a LeBron fan, Packers are 3-4. The Lakers are 0-3. The Yankees are about to get knocked out.
Tino's world is collapsing.
I don't know what to do. My whole world is collapsing. The only hope I have is the Rangers, who are going to be good again this year. And again, hockey's not even my favorite sport. So I don't know what to do anymore. But that's going to conclude my little rant there. Concludes episode 51 of The Cold Hard Truth. Peyton, we miss you, buddy. Hope everything's going well with you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure go down below in the description. Follow our social medias. Cold Hard Truth, myself, Conor, Jacob, Peyton, all our socials down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.